7 ways to avoid the holidays with 7 interesting sim racing updates. Oh, and watching this video is the 8th. This video is dedicated to the memory of Reiner, one of the best and most successful film directors of his generation. If you've ever heard or said sentences like, "I'll have what she's having," put it up to 11, or of course, "Hello, my name is Íñigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die," you've heard or said quotes from his movies. He didn't write them all, but he filmed them so you would remember them. And those are only 3 of an enormous number of great movies he did. Go check out his filmography. Greetings from me, you're watching WromWrom, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and a regular news roundup or weekly sim racing news. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. Ho ho ho! Most all of the sim racing studios want you to ignore your family these holidays and drive their sims because most of them released updates, patches, and of course reduced prices for the Steam sale this week. I mean, I know what I will be doing. Let's check them out. 5th content update for Wreckfest 2, and it's a hefty one. On the shiny new vehicle front, there's a Grand Star, an American minivan that's presumably ready to relive its glory days by getting absolutely demolished, and the Phaser, an Asian coupe. They're joined by Moorfeld, a new track with both racer and crasher routes. 10 new bite-sized challenges have been added as well, with promises of more to come. The Crapit livery editor has gotten some serious love. You can now mirror decals, group decals together for easier manipulation, and choose whether stickers sit on top or below your paint codes. There are new decal options including fonts, and you can also now use the default car design as a starting point for your custom creations. Under the hood of the game, that is, things get more interesting. The developers have tackled what they acknowledge was a frustrating problem. Sometimes you'd line up what should have been a perfect aggressive hit on an opponent, only to end up taking more damage yourself. They've refactored the attacker and defender detection system to better understand who's doing the hitting and who's getting hit, and they've adjusted the damage calculations to reward aggressive play more consistently. The new system still favors mass and speed like before, but now in normal damage mode. It also considers the condition of your car's armor sectors. If you keep your car healthy and maintain momentum advantage, you can dish out damage while taking less yourself. As your car deteriorates, you'll start receiving more damage back. The developers frame this as making lighter cars naturally at a disadvantage, as they should be, which is certainly one way to balance a demolition derby game. Cars across the roster have had their ways adjusted to better reflect them being stripped down beaters, and hit points have been rebalanced. Car versus car collision physics have been improved, and wheels don't pop off as easily now. Tires won't puncture from minor bumps, and environmental damage is more consistent regardless of what you're driving. Oh, and cars now accumulate mud as you drive, with more surfaces planned for later updates. Tires actually sink into soft surfaces now, and off-road terrain is properly bumpy. Suspension setups have been improved for consistency, with various oddities fixed along the way. Manual clutch shifting is now easier, and using stability assist should no longer be faster than driving without it. The force feedback system has been completely revised, with stronger ramp-up, improved detail, and smoother signals. Direct input signal handling has been improved to reduce jitter, and direct input devices now get 120 Hz fixed rate feedback. There's a new low force boost setting specifically for non-direct drive wheels to help with force ramp up and details. The developers have changed the default gain to 50%, down from 100%, and they're quite insistent that you shouldn't crank your wheel software's torque above 10 Nm unless you really know what you're doing, given the sudden forces the game can generate. They also note they don't have a general damper in their signal, so you should add damper, inertia, and friction in your wheel software if needed. Important information your arms and fingers will be thankful for. NPC driver behavior has been improved across the board, with better overtaking, refined racing lines, and more variety in how they drive. They're now more aware of other cars and the player with improved pathfinding and obstacle detection in derby mode. AI difficulty levels have been fine-tuned as well. Online play has gotten cup mode, configurable in server settings, server file logging and optimizations for hybrid CPUs. The PlayFab SDK has been updated to the latest version and various multiplayer crashes have been fixed. The audio system has received extensive tweaking. There's now code support and preliminary sounds for per-wheel suspension movement and bump stop effects, unique collision sounds for cargo containers and basic tire sounds effects for wet mud surfaces. And the handbrake now plays a mechanical clunk instead of a ratcheting sound. When using the spherical camera to pan around your car, the blend between engine and exhaust sound is smoother now, with dual exhaust support still in the works. In bumper view, the exhaust is more prominent in the overall mix. Cockpit view has gotten a complete audio overhaul, especially making tire and suspension sounds more clearly directional. If you're on a surround system, each tire is panned at the appropriate angle relative to the camera. There are various other mix tweaks to smooth transitions across different camera views. Rendering improvements include better game stability and performance, fixes for background terrain flickering and Intel Arc B580 glitches. The game no longer crashes when returning from a challenge and changing cars if you'd modified assists, when loading replays saved with previous versions, or when reversing from the start line on Moorfield, which was apparently causing the game to hang entirely. Random pink car undercarriage materials have been fixed. Collision physics have been further improved, especially when cars land on top of each other, and medium intensity crashes now deal more damage. Cars no longer take damage just from driving on mud with no tire, which seems like a specific edge case someone must have encountered. Suspension and tire inertia consistency has been improved across the roster. Derby challenges were ending prematurely after 3 minutes, which has been corrected. A ramp in testing grounds that was launching cars airborne has been fixed, and drivers no longer spam gestures when cars are just touching each other. UI improvements are extensive. Challenge targets are now shown in the pre-race screen, and completing a challenge automatically returns you to the selection screen instead of leaving you hanging. The challenges menu remembers your previously selected challenge when you return. In custom race creation, backing out after browsing tracks no longer causes you to lose focus. The settings menu now requests a game restart when required and reverts your changes if you choose no, preventing glitches and crashes. There's now basic interactivity on the controller testing button, so you know when testing is active. In multiplayer lobbies, the server IP address is no longer shown publicly in the server browser. Keyboard input doesn't lose focus while viewing server details. Spectate mode has been fixed, so selecting Show HUD and pressing Escape doesn't change the spectated car. Client IPs are no longer shown in the server console. Replay functionality has been improved. The camera now defaults to focusing on the player who recorded the replay. The play pause button works consistently after restarting a replay, and changing cars no longer causes the free camera to glitch. Force feedback got another pass in the patch, with increased main force strength in the calculations and new default settings to make it appear less weak, though this only applies if you haven't changed your settings yet. There's now stronger feedback on mud at Moorfield, and timing and responsiveness have been improved. This may be the biggest update to date, and it looks like the sum of everything collected during the year. The damage system overhaul in particular seems aimed at making aggressive play feel more rewarding and less random. iRacing has kicked off 2026 Season 1 with one of their 4 major annual releases, and it's a hefty one, followed quickly by a patch and an emergency hotfix to address issues that cropped up immediately after launch. The headline additions are 2 new cars: the FIA Cross car, which is free for all members and joins the base content lineup, and the Porsche 911 Cup 992.2. The Cross car is billed as representing the highest level of machinery in in a discipline popular with young European drivers. The Porsche 911 Cup 992.2 replaces the 992.1 version, which is now moving to legacy content. Any paying member who owned the old model gets the new one for free, which is a nice touch. The new Cup car features improved aerodynamics and simplified operation. It's also ready for rain racing and comes with AI driver support right out of the gate. The car features a new sonic modeling technique that swaps a set of cogs with each gear, which should enhance the auditory experience of the transmission. Track-wise, there are two major additions: Adelaide Street Circuit in South Australia and Miami International Autodrome in Florida. Adelaide is described as one of the finest street circuits, which seems fair given its history dating back to 1985. Miami comes with 5 different configurations, including the full Grand Prix layout and various shorter loops. For dirt road enthusiasts, Lucas Oil Speedway gets an off-road configuration, and Winton Motor Raceway adds a rallycross layout. Rockingham Speedway's oval has been remodeled with new laser scan data, though the 2012 version has been preserved for those with nostalgic attachments. Mount Panorama has received what they call a comprehensive from the ground up art overhaul, which sounds impressive until you realize it just means everything looks prettier. Adelaide Street Circuit got a slowdown penalty added to the Turn 4 entry curb, and the Turn 2 penalty zone was made slightly more lenient. A 150 brake marker has been properly attached to a fence. Bridges now correctly block rainfall beneath them. At Mount Panorama, bridges also now block rain, terrain seams have been patched, rain texture details have been updated, and a variety of hovering objects have been properly grounded. The UI has gotten substantial attention with 3 new features. Widget Editor lets you customize size, transparency, and position of UI elements. Options Search lets you type to filter the options menu instead of clicking through everything, and standalone widgets give you read-only displays for lap timing, relative standings, and weather that you can have open simultaneously. The dynamic track model has been refined. Track initialization now handles dust distribution and water depths more accurately, with fewer simulated off-track excursions present at session start. As part of their ongoing oval refresh project, tire sliding parameters have been adjusted to put more rubber wear on the tire, which should reduce the long-term advantage of staying in the groove. The NASCAR Truck Series has received dramatic aerodynamic updates using realistic skewed body shape to capture more accurate forces. The developers claim this has significantly enhanced the handling fidelity, particularly in high yaw angle and side-by-side scenarios. The drafting model and rear end have also been updated for improved bump drafting. Driver animations that had hiccups have been fixed, though the release notes joke about trying various hiccup home remedies first. Gotta love whoever writes these notes for their humor. The Dallara IR18 finally gets its complete hybrid system implementation, with AI drivers fully trained to use it. The car also received cosmetic updates, including improved cockpit textures, models, and lighting, fixed tire tread patterns facing the correct direction, and updated male driver arm animations. The Toyota GR86 received a complete physics overhaul, including a lowered center of gravity to reduce rollover and bicycling, increased anti-roll bar size, more rear camber, expanded spring rate ranges, reduced gearbox friction, and tweaked power delivery. GT3 class cars now have spring perches that adjust automatically when you change spring rates, so you don't need to manually adjust ride height after each change, a quality of life improvement that feels overdue. And various GT3 cars received specific updates. Hybrid system audio has been updated across multiple GTP cars. NPC drivers have been fully trained at Adelaide Street Circuit, all 5 Miami configurations, and the new Rockingham Oval. They've also improved their skills with GT3 and LMP1 class cars and other assorted cars. Several NPC vehicles received temperature correlation updates, making their tire behavior more realistic and closer to how player cars function. The AI opponent paint scheme database has been fully rebuilt with more realistic liveries for all vehicles, and specialized paint sets have been created for Gen 4, Supercars Gen 3, Stock Car Pro Series and the Radical SR10, with additional schemes added to various NASCAR series and Dallara cars. An absolutely massive number of iRacing setups have been updated. Practically every car in the sim received fresh default setups. Netcode has been updated to improve how vehicles handle elevation changes and vertical positioning, fixing issues where cars could appear to float above or sink into the track at locations with high elevation changes, especially for drivers with high latencies. Opponent vehicle rotational references and predictive calculations have also been updated for more accurate orientation based on steering inputs and forces. The licensing system had an issue where users were seeing improper MPR contributions. The sporting code requires completing at least 50% of the winner's laps for a race to count toward MPR, but this wasn't being enforced. The fix isn't retroactive, so it only applies forward. Weather improvements include better forecast accuracy over long periods, improved water height initialization, and greatly improved parameters for drying tracks where porous and non-porous materials were adjacent. The iRacing sanctioning body has also determined a more appropriate level for worst-case green flag weather in official racing. No specifics on what changed, but just that it's apparently more appropriate now. An issue with double fog being applied to shadowing has been fixed. Race control tightened up course cut detection to reduce false black flags. During dirt road events, drivers are now correctly disqualified from qualifying if they use the Joker route, though completed laps before using it still count and they can still race. 5 new languages have been added to the non-in-sim application: French, German, Italian, and both European and Brazilian Portuguese. Dirt sprint cars now prioritize nose and top wing repairs, with repair rates for each wing substantially increased. The dirt street stock had a low-speed force feedback rattle that's been fixed. Track-specific updates are extensive. Daytona's road course now triggers a one-time penalty if 4 wheels cross inside the white line at the bus stop, curbing and tri-oval apron areas, and a movable tire bundle has been added at the bus stop exit. Chicago street course had a mysterious floating triangle removed from the sky. Nothing paranormal or supernormal to see here, the notes joke. Various tracks including Brands Hatch, Daytona, Iowa, Lucas Oil, Indianapolis, and Phoenix received adjusted rallycross signage. The virtual mirror scaling has been fixed so the rendered image resolution scales with UI scale, and the extra large scaling option has been removed. VR users had issues with layout choices not saving correctly and off-screen render targets allocating twice the needed width, both now fixed. Graphics improvements include better wind impact on palm trees and fixes for water spray flickering in the virtual mirror. The VNM Wheel API has been added along with the latest Simulcube and Thrustmaster APIs. Steering torque errors when the right front wheel detaches have been fixed, and Simulcube connection attempts have been reduced to speed up launch times and prevent warning messages. Italian and Spanish spotter packs have been updated. There's a known issue where extra driver names populate the entries table or driver focus selection in replays, carrying over from open practices to races in official sessions. The developers note they're still investigating but emphasize it's only visual. It doesn't impact scores and results, just creates visual artifacts. Xbox gamepad handling has been improved, with thumb triggers now properly separated even when using Bluetooth. A massive update that adds new content and meaningful improvements, though the quick succession of fixes suggests the initial release had some rough edges. At least they responded quickly. The hotfix arrived before it could seriously disrupt the official season start on December 16. BeamNG has rolled out 3 hotfixes in quick succession to address issues that crop up after the version 0.38 release. The first hotfix, 038.1, tackled a vehicle selector menu issue that occurred when the default vehicle was based on a mod that's no longer available, a situation that probably affected quite a few players given how mod-heavy the BeamNG community tends to be. The second hotfix, 38.2, arrived with more substantial fixes. The Hirochi HT55 had a powertrain instability when rear wheels detached from the axle, which has been corrected along with strengthened wheel attachments. The Hirochi W840 was experiencing instabilities when removing window glass or tilt links, both now fixed, plus several part names were corrected. Simplified traffic vehicles received attention too. The Gavril D series cargo box upfit had broken taillights, the Ibishu Pessimus low beam headlights weren't emitting light anymore, and the Cherrier Vivace headlight functionality needed updating to match new changes. Drag racing had accumulated several bugs on garage-to-garage missions, have blacklisted the dump truck and wheel loader except for the Italy quarry location, which seems oddly specific. The early preview career mode had a fatal Lua error when dropping off fluids or dry bulk materials in delivery missions, an error when starting career mode, and a debug menu was unintentionally showing up during negotiations. Whoops. Linux users were experiencing issues when loading into career mode and when cloning vehicles with part modifications. Moving on, several tires had incorrect material names that needed correcting. The vehicle selector was breaking when deleting a mod instead of deactivating it, and career mode's insurance screen could throw an error. Hedgepod are trying to save themselves and are offering a winter 25% discount. RaceRoom also have a winter sale ongoing, as is Steam, with 25% on all cars and tracks, as well as releasing a Super Touring car pack. Another interesting thing is they have added a radar now to the UI when racing, which you can turn on and off. The cars are drawn to scale, it shows your pit in the pit lane, and it does not show cars in situations where collisions are disabled. Sensate have released a Subbelt GT Pad XL seat with integrated MTCP Extreme Seat Haptics Gen 2, which can already be ordered but won't be delivered until mid-late January. Considering the Subbelt seats are among the best seats I've ever sat on and that the Sensate haptic system is lots of fun, it sounds like a match made in heaven. What may be hell for you is the €1,450 it will cost. It's going to be easier to get a hold of sim racing history now, as Microprose and Geoff Crammond have come together once again to release his classic sims under a new name, calling them GCR1 through to GCR4. They say it's to avoid any licensing issues. They also say, without being specific, that while the basic engines will be the same, there's going to be some updates and new tools. And something that's going to make many happy is that they will also bring Steam Workshop support. These sims were heavily modded in their time, and maybe the mods can be added to Steam with not much of a hassle. Another thing they say is that this is the beginning of a long-term partnership between Microprose and Geoff Crammond, with further announcements in the series to come. Maybe Geoff's been bitten by the racing bug once again and we'll see a new sim by him? In any case, neither prices nor a precise release date have been announced yet. From the now to the future, there's a couple of things to talk about with regards to Project Motor Racing. First of all, Straightforward just rolled out a hefty patch that's got a little bit of everything. The headline feature is a customizable radar system for your HUD, which should help you keep track of who's trying to dive bomb you into turn 1. Camera settings got a shuffle with FOV's options now split between external and cockpit views, and they've moved everything to the preferences page. The per car cockpit FOV is gone, which might annoy some folks who liked tweaking each vehicle individually. They've also made the virtual rearview mirror movable in the HUD editor and adjusted LOD distances for better performance. Career mode got a practical fix. You can't buy cars that don't have championships anymore, which honestly just sounds like preventing you from wasting money on unusable vehicles. Various UI issues got cleaned up too. Online racing sees some quality of life improvements. Social racing now uses the same registration flow as ranked mode, and lobby hosts can finally edit settings without backing out. They removed ping display from the custom lobby browser, interesting choice, fixed some loading bugs including one where players would get stuck when another user fails to load, fixed the lobby countdown issue when a ready player becomes host, and added maintenance notifications. Private lobbies now actually show as private when you set them that way. The AI got improved close racing behavior to reduce lockups and fallback behavior, better in-lap and out-lap overtaking, and they're now allowing overtakes during practice and qualifying by default. The stability and performance section is absolutely massive. We're talking fixes for crashes related to true-to-track processing, null pointer issues across multiple systems, thread safety improvements, and about a dozen other technical things that basically translate to "the game was crashing, now it crashes less." The phrase they use about improved overall code robustness is doing some heavy lifting here. That's developer speak for "we fixed a bunch of stuff that wasn't working right." Audio got rebalanced with less tarmac rumble at high speeds and collision sounds tweaked. They've also made general audio stability improvements. UI improvements include bigger text fields so words don't get cut off, and a settings button on the main menu, which again feels like basic stuff. They've also added controller slider UI for brake and accelerator sensitivity, dead zones, and related controls, which should give the wheel and gamepad users more fine-tuning options. The penalty and off-track detection system has been completely overhauled with updated pit layouts and track boundaries. They've done extensive work on San Marino with performance improvements, pit entry fixes, material and lighting upgrades, LOD improvement, collision fixes, barrier adjustments, and fixes for clipping and visual popping issues. Rounding things out, vegetation optimizations across tracks, tree normal map fixes, and bush placement improvements, input system fixes including some Logitech peripheral issues, pressure calculation fixes, and the vague but optimistic general polish and cleanup across systems. Moving to Project Motor Racing's future, the team released what they call a short-term roadmap, which is rather wishlist as it has no specific information about when to expect the release, just a general list of what they are working on, which includes spotter support, rolling starts, and yes, VR support for PC as well as triple screen support. Also, they are working on a, from my side, much welcome front-end and menu overhaul. As always, we have links to the full list in our description. Rally Sim fans have been busy, and the AC Rally developers are clearly listening and grateful, showing their appreciation with an update that brings winter racing to the sim. The star of the show is the 1973 Alpine A110 Group 4, a lightweight rally legend. But even more exciting is the new Livigno ice circuit, a frozen playground nestled in the Italian Alps. This isn't some fantasy track, it's based on a real ice driving venue where people go to slide around on studded tires. Speaking of which, the update introduces snow physics and studded tires, which should make for some properly sideways action. There are 25 new events to tackle across 2 new event groups as well. Steering wheel support has been improved, though the developers admit they're still working on full peripheral compatibility. They've even added wiper controls because apparently driving through a blizzard without functional wipers was an issue. Force feedback has been tweaked to fix inconsistencies and improve brake feel, with some effects that were apparently pushing the wheel the wrong direction now corrected. Physics models for gravel and tarmac have been refined based on new data and validation from actual rally drivers. They've also improved the tire model's behavior at extreme drift angles and retuned some differentials. The throttle response is now more linear too, which should make pedal inputs feel more natural. Audio has gotten some attention as well, with new engine sounds for the Alpine, the first implementation of snow tire audio, and improved skid sounds on asphalt. They've also fixed an issue where wall reverb was oddly louder inside the car than in external views and made many small mix adjustments throughout. The stages themselves have been polished up. Saverne has now trees filling in previously bare backdrop areas, and they fixed collisions on log piles in both Saverne and Wales. They've even fixed that traffic sign pole in Saverne. Some road signs that weren't reacting to physics now do, and pace notes have been revised for Wales, Havre North and Saverne Reverse. There's a laundry list of bug fixes too. The French co-driver was calling left when they meant right in some spots. Call it a Certa simulation because I'd do the same. The Lithuanian flag has been corrected, various UI text errors and typos have been cleaned up, and a crash that occurred frequently when exiting leaderboards is gone. Visual improvements include new particle systems for snow collisions and more persistent dust effects, better lighting from headlights and taillights on particles, shader optimizations to reduce GPU load, and support for subsurface scattering. Camera customization now has increased ranges and helmet cam movements have been improved. There's even a new opening splash screen, and you can now add country flags to your car's air intakes, if that's your thing. Online features have been beefed up significantly. Time Attack Mode now has a recommended time feature where you can choose ghost times from the leaderboards to race against. Leaderboard downloads are faster, time uploads are quicker, and they've improved the login recovery system. Display names now sync with Steam automatically. Behind the scenes, they've migrated to a different hosting service and tweaked server settings. The NPC drivers have gotten smarter too, with tire management added so their times reflect race conditions more accurately. Meanwhile, UI improvements include the ability to hide or show the HUD, better descriptions for differential and gear set options, and fixes for the service park timer not resetting properly during rally weekends. One potentially controversial move is that they're wiping the leaderboards due to physics changes affecting lap times, which might sting for anyone who just set a personal best. The developers acknowledge this wasn't an easy decision and promise they're looking into a Hall of Fame system to preserve future leaderboards before resets, though that's still in the we'll see category. Kuno Simulazioni has released update 041 for Assetto Corsa Evo with a big focus on performance. The UI engine texture cache count has been incremented, which the developers identify as a source of potential stuttering. They've also added what they describe as a potential optimization for stuttering caused by UI items and a potential fix for heavy stutter when input devices reconnect. The careful use of potential here suggests they're not entirely certain these will solve everyone's problems, but they're worth noting if you've been experiencing performance hiccups. Controls have been tweaked so that dynamic damping setting changes now take effect immediately instead of requiring a game restart. Season definition penalties are now consistent between quick race and race weekend sessions, fixing what was presumably some confusing discrepancies. Several cars have received attention. The Caterham Academy got setup limit adjustments and shift RPM LED tweaks. The BMW M3 E46 CSL has received audio improvements, throttle response fixes, and auto blip corrections, plus dash scripting updates. The Ferrari SF25 received aero updates, setup limit changes, and a fix for wing setting adjustments not taking effect correctly. And other cars got also updates here and there. Track improvements include minor visual fixes at the Nürburgring and better pit entry-exit shapes across the board to avoid false positive track limit violations. All notch life layouts now have thicker lines on the full map in the map widget, making them easier to read. NPC driver cars now have improved reaction to lower pace opponents, which should make racing against them feel more natural, and electronic settings in the setup menu were loading incorrectly and now work properly. The server browser has been improved with filters for game modes, and practice mode servers now display as track day. And a race server crash has been fixed. UI polish includes all onboard TV cameras now having a passenger camera option, spectator sound zone volume has been tweaked, HUD elements now properly respond to visibility toggles in settings, and the replay UI no longer shows a redundant index when cycling camera submodes. A game crash when trying to launch R3 Academy events has been resolved. Studio 397 has dropped a patch for Le Mans Ultimate that tackles a bunch of lingering issues while giving Paul Ricard some much needed attention. The AI has been fixed so they're no longer mysteriously faster or slower than players on wet rubber lines. In co-op mode, driver swaps were triggering the AI to switch to wet tires even in clear weather, which has been corrected. The game was also crashing when parsing server information or launching directly, both now resolved. They've also signed the plugginadapter.exe file to stop antivirus software from getting upset. Driver badges now appear with tooltips in result screens, and there's a new event notification animation in the top bar to let you know when events are about to start. The pit menu has been updated to only enable auto repair when you're showing red damage on the HUD. Time penalties were applying too much time at the end of race sessions if you didn't serve them in a pit stop. That's been sorted. Track limits detection has been fixed for various issues around pit entries, with Paul Ricard apparently being the main culprit. Speaking of Paul Ricard, Bernie's circuit has received what the developers call a comprehensive review of the curbs, fixing various inaccuracies. They give a shout out to Jardier for helping with this. The tracks also gained a Goodyear fan zone arch, missing trees in front of the outer wall near turns 5 and 6, terrain islands for trees that were oddly planted in concrete areas, and various small buildings. The magenta rumble strips have been desaturated, presumably they were a bit too eye-searing before. There are minor terrain adjustments near the bridges at the final turn, and ambient occlusion has been updated based on the new tree placement. Several race weekend bugs have been squashed. Occasionally pressing escape wouldn't return you to result screens, skipping the formation lab would make the race go green instantly, which seems like it could have been exploited. Telemetry timestamps were broken and now work correctly. Engineer invites can now be properly cancelled or rejected in driver swaps, and team event practice servers have been configured to match the length of race sessions. On the car side, the Ford Mustang LMGT3, Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 LMGT3 and the Porsche 911 LMGT3R have all received small balance of performance adjustments. The Ginetta G61 LT P325 Evo LMP3 got an updated default setup for Spa, and the Lexus RCF LMGT3 now correctly loads per track default setups instead of just using Paul Ricard's setup everywhere, which must have made some tracks interesting to drive.